On the 21st of April 2024, a local election debate was held at the park gates in Fermoy. For the candidates that turned up, this is what they had to say.
Good afternoon, everyone. Great to see you. What a difference 6 months makes. We were here in the rain. I can hear an echo. Should I go behind it or something?
Yeah, that's
okay. So we were here in the rain 6 months ago, and there's been a lot of water under the bridge since. And I know, and some of you are probably saying it, and some of the people behind me are saying it, who the hell is she? And I'm sure our Garda friends behind are also saying, who the hell is she to call a meeting? And yeah, who the hell am I to call a meeting? Who the hell am I to call a meeting? Well, I'll tell you. A concerned citizen, Annette. Thank you very much. Yeah, the 6 months that we've put down outside Abbeyville across the road was a steep learning curve for everyone. Today isn't about that, but I want to tell you the story of why I'm standing here and why I called the meeting. I learned in that 6 months and had a very steep learning curve about I'm sorry to say, the ineptitude of our politicians and our local representatives when it comes to representing citizens and community members on issues of concern to them. We were kept completely in the dark, we were excluded, we were denigrated, we were smeared, and there were no lines of communication with the powers that be. In spite of the fact that several of our local councillors are members of the main leading powers, the parties in government. And of course I have to exclude from that Willie and Frank Roche here, two brave men who did support us and did, yes, and they did their very best to try and get us answers and to try and get us communication. So whatever happened in Abbeyville happened and all the rest, and whether you agree or you disagree with how we managed that campaign, I'm sure you will all agree that we as tax-paying citizens deserve representation from our elected local councillors. And if you agree with that, well then you should agree that something is very rotten about a situation where you have no representation from those that you elected, and that technically, I'm sorry, work for all of us as taxpayers. And yet they told us they couldn't even get communication with offices in Dublin. So it's not about the exact scenario across the road, it's about what I learned about the flaws, the corruption in the political process is the reason that I'm here today, because I don't know about you, but I've had enough of it. And if today is the start in turning the tide around such that we get some representation from those that are going to be elected by us on the 7th of June, well then I think it's a good thing. We could all be at matches and at the beach and tanning ourselves in the park there, and we chose not to be, because we are aware that there are big issues at hand in this country at the moment, and thankfully we are prepared to do something about it, even if it's just turning up and standing here in the sun and listening and demanding of those who want our votes on the 7th of June some openness and transparency in relation to what they stand for. For me it truly beggars belief. It actually beggars belief that the main party affiliated local councillors were unable to get us any answers and to open up any lines of communication. And they will say, and I have talked to those, several of those to be fair, who didn't come today, and they say, Laura, our hands are tied, we have no power. I mean, you're demanding a lot of us, and maybe I'm being unfair in demanding you to be here because you're going to say, we have no power, there's very little we can do. But I think that's wrong. We've seen power been taken away from the local authorities to the county councils. It's then been taken from the county councils to government in Dublin, and increasingly it's moving to Brussels. So 70% of the laws that that affect our lives as citizens in towns and villages all over Ireland are coming from Brussels. So we have this trajectory is of increasing centralisation of power, not only away from our local towns, but away from our capital city and all the way to Brussels. And if we don't redress and address that trend and try and turn the ship, we will have no voices. And boy, are there big things coming down the line with the EU migration as an asylum pact, the hate speech, lots of WHO things. We will have absolutely zero say in any of this if this current trend continues. So, I also feel, I'm sorry to say, that a lot of the politicians, local politicians that represent us, it's all very cosy and they never get challenged, and it's about fixing potholes. And that might be important, but boy, oh boy, have we bigger problems than potholes coming down the road towards us. Sorry, I keep forgetting to look at the camera. And the days, I'm sorry, of pressing the flesh at the front door and issuing promises to people are over. Because you can tell people whatever they want to hear on the doorstep, but to come here and stand in the town square and tell people what you stand for, well, then you're going to be held accountable. And that takes true guts, and I think that's why most of the people I invited didn't come today. I'm sorry to say, where are their guts? And do you want someone representing you who has no guts? Ha! So, we are demanding, I am demanding, and I think those of you who are here with me are demanding better representation and transparency in local politics. If we the people don't use our power to insist on these changes at grassroots level, then we've no hope of influencing the powers that be in Dublin. And make no mistake about it, our country is in crisis. Unless you have your head in the sand and are walking around here, some of the members of polite society in Fermoy, some kind of privileged bunch that seem to think all is rosy, the rest of us can see what's happening. Our institutions are crashing, schools, hospitals are in crisis, and worse, the worst and saddest part of it all is we are hemorrhaging our youth, our children and our grandchildren. We are hemorrhaging them. We are sending them abroad to find a future in other countries while we provide a future here for the half of the bloody developing world. And I, for one, will stand and take any kind of shit from anyone if it means I can make a future for my children at home. I consider that we're being sold out by our own, and that all our anger and disgust about this should be directed to the government. And we can start by making our voices heard at the local elections on the 7th of June. Lads, apathy isn't going to cut it anymore. We are the majority, and we need to reverse this trend. This brings me to today's event. Last December, Peter O'Donoghue, who's here today, and Diarmid and a few others, Peter's running as an independent candidate, he'll be speaking in a minute as well, hosted a well-attended public forum right in this spot on the issue of immigration. It was a diplomatic, informative, and indeed at times really super inspiring event. In the rain, in December, because we were considered to be such troublemakers that we weren't allowed to have a room in any of our meetings. And even the presence of the Gardaí today here, I did say, none of us have pitchforks in our back pocket. This is a diplomatic citizens' meeting of grown adults that want simply better representation from our local politicians. Peter and I and others who were involved in that event discussed how we need to bring back the town square if we are to save our democracy. There are no secrets in a public forum, there's nowhere to hide, and you will all be held to account for what you say. And that's why I commend the 4 candidates for local election who are here today: Derek Blighe, Peter O'Donoghue, Willie O'Leary and Frank Roche, and please give them all a round of applause. So, I've asked each of the 4 of them just to give us 3 or 4 or 5 minutes about what they stand for, the main issue. What's the main issue that brought you into politics? The main reason that they're here? what they're hearing in the houses at the doors when they're talking to people, and basically whatever else they want. And then I have a few questions. The questions are based around the recent Irish Times Ipsos BNA snapshot poll, where they questioned 1,000 Irish citizens about the issues of major concern. First in that poll was immigration at 22%. Second was housing, and it really is a two-horse race because all the others were way down at 5 and 7%. Climate, social policies, democracy. But I'm going to center the questions, to be fair, around the issues that are of most concern. So, I never agreed on a running order, but who's feeling bravest to come up and take the mic and tell us what you stand for, basically? Anyone? Here, come on, Derek. Okay, thanks, Derek.
Hi everyone, thanks for coming out today. Absolutely beautiful day. I was saying earlier that it seems like we crossed the line from winter into summer here in the last few days, and it's absolutely glorious. Especially after what we had right in the tent for 4 months in the winter. But most people know who I am. My name is Derek Blighe. Right? I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a bricklayer. Okay, and I'm also running in the local elections here in Fermoy, but I'm also running for the European Parliament. The reasons are because in the last few years in this country, we've seen a massive pivot, we'll call it, from the establishment. First we had COVID, where the Irish government deemed it necessary to lock every man, woman and child in their homes because a so-called virus was circulating. Many people fell for it, many people didn't. Some people died. Look, people die with every flu season. But the part that outraged me was the imprisonment. Right? And that's why I took to the streets and the roads in June of 2020 with Philip Dwyer and Dave Cullen and Garrod Murphy, and we walked the length and breadth of this country. We climbed hills, we climbed mountains. Roslahive also, we made alliances and we created what was then called the Men of Ireland. And I'm great friends with many of those people still today, but that has morphed into something completely different. Because we went from COVID finishing to the next day the government decided to open up our borders to every Tom, Dick and Harry from around the world. They called them Ukrainian refugees, but those of us who knew what to look for knew that the government would use Ukrainian refugees to smuggle in hundreds of thousands of people from the third world. And that is exactly what we're seeing today. We're hearing very, very little about Ukrainian refugees anymore. Now all we hear is refugees and asylum seekers, because it was the bait and switch. And that's the reason why I'm running for these two positions. Because if this constant flow of humans into our country continues, there is going to be absolutely nothing left in this country for my children, for your children, or for their children going forward. We need to stop this, and we need to stop it now. And that's why I'm putting myself forward. And a lot of people say, well, what's the point in running for local council, Derek? What's the point in running for European elections, Derek? We have to start somewhere. There are no Dáil elections now. There are only local and European elections now, and that's why I'm putting myself forward. And I vow to every man, woman and child in this country that if you elect me, I will go to war every single minute of every single day for you, bar no minutes, because this is personal to me. And I'm not going to keep you any longer. There's other people who want to speak. Thank you very much for listening to me, and I look forward to speaking further tonight.
Thank you, Derek. Thank you. Who feels like they'd like to go next? Willie? Come on, good man.
Thank you very much, Laura. Great to be here. Pity we're missing the Cork match, but sure, look, needs must. William O'Leary is my own name, running as an independent candidate in the upcoming local elections. So something probably people didn't think that here a number of months ago, but look, we are where we are. I suppose, look, I know you have a number of questions, Laura, that we'll be happy to take after we introduce ourselves here, but I suppose, why did I get into it? I suppose I was always community driven, locally at home, and I suppose, look, I don't come from a political background, I don't come from one of these dynasties, so look, I just found the opportunity arose and was elected as a member of a government party at the last elections, you know. And I suppose the last 5 years have certainly been an eye-opener. They really have been, you know. And I suppose my type of work is really from the bottom up, you know. I know there's mentions around the pothole councillor. I wouldn't say I'm that, but I'm certainly community-driven and people-driven, you know. And it had come to a point with me, certainly, where, you know, and it struck me a long time ago, but like, I could, like, putting anything before people just was starting to kill me and tear me apart, to be honest. And anyone that really knows me, and there's few of those, to be honest, knew that was the case. So, look, I took a decision a number of weeks ago, but made my mind up a number of months ago that I would contest as an independent candidate. So I suppose some people would say, I've had it from both sides. Some people would say, William, you've done the right thing, great decision. Other people would say, you're mad, you're a turncoat. But I had to feel what I remember I stood up there in November and I said, I never again would I put anything before people, you know, and took that decision. And if it works, great, I would love to be elected. If it doesn't, so be it, you know, life goes on, you know, and that's certainly will be the way I'll be approaching it. I suppose, you know, the one thing, and I'll get into other issues there in a second, I suppose one of the things that really I felt like was the drive-on approach to this government, you know, and just a failure to listen. And I mean, even if they throw out the hand to listen, you'd say something. You mightn't agree with them, you mightn't like them, but if they just took on board what the likes of public representatives like me who were elected for them, you know, if they would take on board what we were saying, you know, you mightn't find consensus, but you'd certainly feel your views are being listened to. I didn't feel they were ever, to be honest. You know, I'll give you one example, you know, bar what went on here over the last number of months, you know, trying to get people into schools and school transport. I suppose at home, you know, in earlier in November, my home village in Rathcormac was flooded twice, houses ruined, businesses destroyed, you know, and I just felt, and that tore me asunder, and I just felt I was on my own, you know, and there was no help there. So after all that, I decided, what is the point? What is the point, you know? And that is a number of reasons I took the decision, but that was mainly the reason why. I suppose, you know, with regards to the issues we faced here over the last number of months, you know, I have all I've ever called for, and genuinely have ever called for, you know, I'm not one of these people, and probably people here will disagree with me, but I will say it, I'm not one of these people who say shut the borders down or close the borders because I don't feel you can do that or it's practical to do it. All I ever asked for was a fair, balanced and an efficient system with regards to people coming into the country, having their claims assessed quickly and efficiently and a decision made. You know, the failure of the government to do that has led to chaos, and what is going on at the moment just is not sustainable, and there's a continued failure to address that, and it's going to lead to further chaos, you know. I think I've spoken to many here over the last number of months, you know, and people who have spoken to me know what my major gripe was with regards to all this racket, and it's the money racket, the money trail, you know. And I made comments here in December, and I knew that night my cards were marked anyway. But I stand by that. Like, I mean, it's been widely, the mainstream media has gone on a different angle, but I suppose they're starting to report now in terms of what the private providers of such centres are making. It's ridiculous. It's beggars belief. I mean, one provider up the country, 36 million. An overall spend of 2 billion this year, or we'll say in 2023. That is ridiculous amounts of money, you know. That was my gripe. That's where I was always coming from with that, you know. And if you think the people who, you know, house asylum seekers or migrants actually care about them, you're sadly mistaken. They care about one thing. They care about their pockets. They care about the cash, you know. And that was, I mean, there was a report in the Irish Examiner this week, not my favourite paper, to be honest, but I saw it nonetheless, and it was about how these places are overcrowded, how they're infested with rodents, you know, and that was always my point, you know, in the sense that these people are in it for one thing: money, money, money. That's all I said, you know. And often they're far removed from the town or the area where they purchased the property. They don't care about the area itself. They don't care about the people they're putting in there. They don't care about the people living here. They care about their pockets, you know, and they're being aided and abetted by this government, you know. It's ridiculous. It's shocking, you know, and that was always my major gripe with this. I suppose, like, without being repetitive, all I ever asked for was a balanced and fair system, you know, somewhat rules-based, you know, and we heard that term being used. There's no rules there at the moment. It's a free-for-all, you know, and when you see 100,000 Ukrainians coming in top of 20 or 30,000 per year now is what we're seeing of international protection applicants, the system falls apart. I'm working every day in my job. I get up in the morning, the first thing I try and do is help people to the last thing I do at night. That's what I try and do, and I see people who cannot get access to homes, who cannot get access to services, who cannot get access to school places, and that's what that was the bones of it, like, and the likes of myself just were pushed aside, not listened to, and then, to sum it up, probably painted by the establishment. Is he alright? Is he well? Is he okay in the head? What's wrong with Willie? Is he gone mad? You know? And I said up there before, I think on a Sunday at one of our meetings, I can assure you I'm fine, you know. It's never about, like I said, it's never about votes for me. I dearly love to be re-elected, you know. I would love to get in. I'd love to continue some of the good work I think I have been doing, you know. Like I said, if it doesn't work out, you know, life goes on, you know. I work for my own father in the haulage industry. We have a good business going, you know, tough with the cost of everything these days. We're affected that way as well, but you know, that's the way, you know, if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But again, like, never again will I put people before, will I put anything before people. Never again. And I saw it from the inside out. I really did. And their approach to it is shocking. Like, when an issue of any importance arises, be it what we saw here or be it in X, Y and Z, their advice to the likes of me was stay out of it, keep your mouth shut and it'll pass. That day is gone. That day is over, you know. And if this ends up costing me my seat in Cork County Council, if my views do, then so be it, you know. Like I said, I would love to get in. The last thing is, you know, all I've ever looked for is parity amongst all people, you know. And what gives, and I've been out in the doors of the last week, and I know some of your questions will later to allude to that, but what people are so frustrated with is, you know, you're talking about working class, middle class people who are working their backsides off from morning to night every week, you know, and life is tough and life is shite at the moment for a lot of people, for a number of reasons. But when they see people who can come in, get their accommodation for free, sometimes with chandeliers hanging off the roof, school places, and look, I will say this, no child who should come in here should be denied an education despite the circumstances to come in. I will say that. When they get easier access to their free meals, free accommodation, you know, easier access to your doctors, dentists, medical cards, free LEP cards to get on public services, that has given serious rise to resentment amongst people and is causing a serious divide, you know, and that is really what I'm hearing on the doors, you know. I suppose, look, as always, I get my word number, and I genuinely meant it. I don't know, did you believe me at the time? You know, I would stick with you through thick and thin. You know, I'd like to think I have done. Look, I leave in, I know Peter's here to speak, and Frank as well, so I leave them in. But again, look, of course, as always, my door's always open for anyone that wants to talk to me, genuinely have a chat with me, debate with me, whatever side of the fence you're on. Whatever side of the fence you're on, I'm always accessible, okay? Thank you, Laura.
Thank you, Willie. Frank Roche, Councillor Frank Roche, thanks a million.
I'd like to welcome you all here tonight and thank you all for coming. I went into politics not coming from a political background, but the reason I went into politics was to highlight the injustice within our legal system. I do know we've two members of the Gardaí here. My life was absolutely brilliant for the first 49 years of my life. But my life was destroyed by a solicitor's firm here in this town. I was homeless. I lost my farm. I lost everything. And it's very sad to think that the solicitor that did all that to me can walk the town here and hold his head high. And I'm nearly treated as a criminal in the town. But I'm not ashamed of it. I worked hard. Why I came into Abbeville was I have young girls in Roche, Ballyhooly, Kilworth, Arroglan, Rackcomack, everywhere who are looking for homes. I know what it's like to be homeless. I know the way our authorities treat the homeless people. And for that reason, I want to remain in politics. I want to fight for the people. When I use the word fight, I hear them saying, oh, he's violent. I'm not violent. Anybody that knows me, know I'm not violent. But I'm being painted in that direction. Now, in fairness, I've one colleague here today that sat in that tent for the 125 days. Willie and myself stayed there. I do actually respect our other councillors for not turning up here today, because at least they showed that when they didn't turn up for the tent, they weren't going to turn up here today because we've election way up. The one thing I would warn people here today is, I do know that Willie Leary and myself stood in that tent or sat in that tent. We discussed with the people here in the town. We know what went on. But there is one thing. We'll stay with you. We won't be across the bridge tomorrow night if there's two more people in the crowd. That's the one thing that you want to watch going forward, is that candidates that you are voting for are the people that will support you, not running for the popular place to be. I'm trying to highlight the injustice that's on the ordinary people of this country. And it's time that the ordinary people stood up, fought the establishment and fought the injustice that's in the society. Here in Fermoy alone, to think that people's lives are being destroyed. Every night in the tent I got different examples. And to think that we have a firm in this town that's actually walking free from all what's going on. That was my reason for going into politics. But having said that, I am here to support the people that can't get homes and that our government are overlooking. And that's the reason that I want to support the people of Fermoy and highlight the injustice in our justice system. Thank you all for listening to me.
Thanks a million, Frank, thank you. It just actually, speaking about the injustice, it just really brings to mind the victims of the Stardust tragedy, and we know that they finally got justice after 43 years last week, and it's an absolute tragedy. I can't help but feel that if the families and the children had been from Leafy Balls Bridge, they might have had justice much sooner than 43 years. But it is a shame on our justice system, and there is corruption and injustice rife in this country, and I think that's a very sad and poignant example of it from very recent. So now Peter O'Donoghue, who is running for the first time, is last but not least.
Thank you, Laura. I'll just say, hello everyone. I'd like to thank Laura for organising this here today, because it's a breath of fresh air. It's so important for democracy, and it's lovely to see it happening, because we need to see conversations, and we need to see discussions, and we need to see debate all across the country. And I know many of you will agree with me in certain issues, and many of you will disagree with me in certain issues, but we always have to be able to speak about the issues, no matter what opinion we have on the issues. And I suppose, Peter O'Donoghue is my name, and I'll be running as an independent candidate in the upcoming local elections in the Fermoy Municipal District. And I'm running as an independent because I believe the political party system in this country is broken, and it's broken beyond repair. And there's many good people within parties in this country, and William was one of them. But when you speak your mind when you're inside in the party, and when your party whip and when your party leader disagrees with you, and when you speak your mind, you find yourself under severe pressure, and you might find yourself suspended, and you might even find yourself expelled. And that's not democracy. That's not how democracy worked. The people who we elect as our political representatives in our villages, in our towns, and in our communities, they have one job and one job only, and that is to represent the people of their communities. And we haven't been seeing that. We haven't seen that now in a long time, but especially over the last number of years. And that is why I'm running as an independent, because the whole entire system is broken. And I suppose we talked, how many people are running? There's over a dozen people running here in the upcoming local elections. There's 4 of us here today. Many of those are from the parties, and many, they mightn't have come because they might be afraid or nervous of coming or don't want to come. But the reality of the situation is, even if they wanted to come, they wouldn't have been allowed to come, because their parties would have expelled them or suspended them. So that's not how democracy works. And we have a constitution in this country, and we're a republic, and 100 years ago our ancestors fought and died that it's the people of Ireland that would run Ireland, that would control Ireland and its destiny. And we haven't been seeing that. We're seeing unelected, unaccountable bureaucrats in Dublin, in Brussels, and in globalist organisations across the world now running our country, and that is not acceptable. And we have to break that. And I believe that it's independents who represent the people from the ground up will break that. Because when you're in a party, all they have to do is take the head off the snake, and they have complete control of the entire party. And that's what we've seen time and time again. So that's why I'm running. Then I suppose you had a few questions there, Laura, the standalone issue at the door, I suppose the single standalone reason. Yeah.
I'm just interested to hear what you're hearing on the street.
Yeah, so again, it goes back to exactly what I said a while ago. The people are absolutely disillusioned with the parties. They say, "So what's the point in voting now?" Time and time again, they're sickened with the parties. Not any particular party, all the parties, because the parties don't represent them. So, independents, I would say, it's a good time to be an independent. Because it's what people are looking for. It's what people are starting to believe in now. And I suppose I would say that for the people of Fermoy in the Mitchelstown area, I would ask you to vote for me on the 7th of June, because I will represent you. I will not represent anybody else. I will not represent any vested interest. I don't represent any big businesses. My sole job will be to listen to the people of my community, to listen to their concerns, and to act on their concerns. And that's what I will do. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Peter. Peter, do you want to stay up here? And Derek, if you could just come up here and I'll ask you the question. I just wanted to say that some of the excuses I got from some of those who are not here, who I will not name individually, one was, very like you said, Peter, I would go if I was an independent, but I can't. Daddy won't let me, I suppose. Or, I mean, like, the party wouldn't let them. And another person said, I'm going to, let's say, a match, or I have a prior engagement, but even if I wasn't, I wouldn't be there, and I'm not going to tell you the reasons. Fine. And then others just completely ignored me. But we are not considered to be members of polite society because we are questioning the bloody narrative. And this is the punishment people get for asking questions in this country. You are ostracized and smeared and denigrated. But anyway, we are walking through the valley of death, but there is light on the other side, and this is the start of something great. As I said to Willie earlier when I was saying, since when has there ever been public forums like this in Ireland? We were all happy out, things were going quite well, so people were not questioning things. And I think it's only now, as the strain is coming on, cost of living going through the roof, etc., that people are now starting to get their feathers ruffled. But we need a lot more feathers ruffled, unfortunately, a lot more. So it could be a long and painful process, but there's always light at the other side. So I just want to ask and the answers have to be really quick, because I have the same questions, and I ask people to send me questions, so these aren't my questions. Not surprisingly, the same questions kept coming up over and over again, because it's the same questions on all of our minds. But the first one really was, with Ireland likely choosing not to opt out of the EU Migration and Asylum Pact, there's still time for them to opt out. We could have to accept an extra 30,000 migrants into the country every year and accept huge fines if they refuse. And I'm wondering, and this came from somebody genuinely lives in town here, if elected, what criteria would you use to determine if a town or a village or a community is full? Where is your line in the sand? Do you think we've already crossed the line in the sand for Fermoy municipal area? So, Derek, I'll ask you first.
Yeah, well, my line in the sand is when services have been maxed out. When people from my community are complaining to me that they can't get their children into schools. When the housing supply has basically run dry. When people can't see a doctor. We hit that point a long time ago here. We're past that now. So, yeah, we're beyond that now, I believe, here in Ireland.
Okay, thanks. Frank?
Yeah, I think the very same when I see the young people of our locality, and when I say our locality and about our own parishes, and they still sleeping in sofas at their family homes. We have no place for these extra people. I've discovered as well during the summer that there was even children here from my school that couldn't get a school place. We are maxed out. If you go into any doctor's surgery, if you go anywhere, we're maxed out. We can't afford any more people. And that's the reason that I don't want to see any more coming in. We have to just call it a school stop. Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. Willie, same question.
Yeah, I see it every day when my phone rings, and when I have young families, be it families or single parents, where they've nowhere to go, they're at home. In some cases with young children themselves inside and still in their parents' house, and they want to remain in their hometown and they want to stay in Fermoy. And when you see that, and the lack of accommodation that is in the town, you have to start asking yourself the question then, what to do and where to go. We just can't. What's definite anyway? The same can't continue. It just cannot go on as it is. Yeah.
Thanks, Willie. So 3 out of 4 so far, I would say, agree that Fermoy, in fact, is full. And I know that is a very racist thing, apparently, to say, but they are talking to people on the streets and they are telling them their own lived experience is that Fermoy is, in fact, I'm sorry to say, full. Peter, do you agree?
Well, if you're a tourist coming to Fermoy this evening and you want to stop off and stay the night, there's not one room available in Fermoy for anybody to stay in. Every hotel is full, every B&B is full, the whole town is full. So it's absolute insanity to be bringing in even more people into the town. It's absolute insanity to be bringing more and more people into the country. It's not responsible and for the people of Ireland, but also for the people coming to Ireland, to see them sleeping out in the streets above in Dublin. That is so wrong. People, it's horrible what's happening. And I just want to, this is one point I would like to say as well, we cannot take our anger out on people who've come to this country to better their lives, because we'd all do the same thing. It's the government created this situation. It's the parties who are supposedly, the opposition parties who never opposed anything over the last 4 or 5 years. They created this situation. So we don't take our anger out on people who've come to this country to better their lives. We take our anger out on the political representatives who made an absolute bags of this country and who've created this situation.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, Peter. The problem is they're not listening to us, and it's a very dangerous situation for people. I have people working with me from all over the world, and they are noticing it. They have different coloured skins. They're from all over. They are feeling it out on the street. So it's a very dangerous situation for them. It could it could spill over. It's very scary. It's a very scary time. They have to start listening to us. I talked about the loss of any power at local level anymore. And I was saying, you know, people saying, what can we do? We've no power, we can't do it. And I said, I want someone in politics who is going to rattle things such that there will be power, some power taken back at local level. And I know that a few people have said to me, oh look, you see people coming into politics, they're all gung-ho, they're going to change it, and they get broken down, and they can't. But the days for allowing yourself to be broken down, I'm sorry, are gone. What would you do, Willie, to reverse the trend and try and take some power back to the local level and local communities?
Yeah, well, that all started about 10 years ago when the town councils were abolished. Some people were in favour of them, some people weren't, but they served their purpose, you know, and a lot of the power was centralised to them when they went. That was gone, and it was further centralised up to Cork, and since then further to Dublin, you know. And I see it every day, it's a difficult task to get things done, you know. You go on about the potholes, it's hard to get a pothole filled. It is, you know. You have to fight the good fight, you know, and you have to maximise pressure on officials as much as you can. But look, when you talk to officials, you know, they'll try and do their best for you. But we're at a point where if you take them to task, it's like being in school, you're at the back of the class for a long time. You know, we saw it here last year. I don't want to be boring people about county development plans or anything. The county development plan is your main. It's done once every 5 years, where your land is zoned for this use or that use, for housing, for hotels, for leisure, for whatever, you know. And that plan was made by the councillors, always was, you know. And people might love or hate us, but we do have an element of local knowledge of where these things should be. That was taken off us. There's a man up in Dublin now, the planning regulator. He sends down his draft plan, and you have officials agreeing with it, and we all have to sign up to it, even though we did our best to try and take it to task. You know, so it's a very worrying trend. It's a very worrying trend, you know. But again, if I sat with the cohort as I previously was, I would have sunk further into that. You know, that trend of, I suppose, deprivation early at one stage at this stage now. You know, so I hope from being out on my own that I will be more single-minded, and I will be chasing them up in these things. It's as simple as that, you know.
Thanks. So it seems that voting independent is the way to go to break that mold.
As Willie said, about 10 years back this all started. As a councillor, if I had a problem tomorrow morning with a phone service, right, to ring air. If I have a problem with water, to ring Irish Water. Even if I had a problem with a wheelie bin, right, it's ring Country Clean. It's called kick the can down the road. Because they'll always try to put you along. It's not our fault, it's the next person. But when you try to get to that person, you can't get them. And even if you do get them, right, or you're a councillor, you're not actually a member, or you're not an employee of, we'll just say Country Clean, for instance, right? So Country Clean only out the road from me. But it's very sad to think that as an elected representative, I can't, if somebody comes to me with a rubbish problem, a phone problem, a water problem, or anything like that, that's where the whole thing is going wrong. Us as councillors, we're losing our power, because they're setting up all these other little country or little companies that will actually take it away from the public representative. And that's where we're losing our powers. Thank you.
Yeah, so I hear some people here tonight talking about political parties and how political parties are the problems. Political parties aren't the problem. Corrupt political parties are the problem. Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and the fake opposition, Sinn Féin and the rest, are all career politicians. Someone said the word earlier, a dynasty. Okay, these people are from a political dynasty, and they've been born and reared to get into politics. I'm from a party called Ireland First, and I can assure you that we don't put any leash on our candidates. We've candidates all over the country, and you know, they can go to any events they please, and there's absolutely no restrictions. Right, but back to Laura's question about taking back some of the power. I don't buy that we've lost any power. I don't buy we've lost any power. In fact, I think we've gained it. Okay, because the most powerful weapon that you have right now is inside your front pocket, and it's your smartphone. And as a councillor, or as an EU Member of Parliament, what I vote to do is every single day after a meeting, I will come outside and I will update my constituents about exactly what happened inside that meeting. You will know everything from start to finish, right? And that's how we put the power back into people's hands. We let them know. Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael used RTE against us for decades. Okay? They carried out their affairs in secret, and then RTE dressed it up and put a ribbon on it and told us lies, and the people believed it. Now we've got our own RTE. On my Twitter I've got 18,000 people who look at me. On my Facebook I've thousands. On my Instagram I've thousands. We use social media the same way those dirtbags use mainstream media against us, and we turn it around on them. That's how I'll do it.
Yeah, so I disagree with you, Derek. The political parties are the problem. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. So we have to change the entire system, in my opinion. We have to elect people who represent the community. And what was the question there again, Laura?
Well, it was just about taking power back to the community level.
Yeah, so
we are listened to.
Yes, so centralisation of power is the main problem that's happening all over the world. It's happening in our country, it's happening in other countries all over the world. The power has been taken from the people. It's Dublin's not even running the show now anymore. It's Europe. We are the best boys in Europe. We don't question Europe on anything. Europe says jump, and we just say how high. We question absolutely nothing. Our politicians don't question Europe. They don't ask the people what they should be questioning, what they should be doing. So centralisation is the problem, and we need to decentralise power, and we need to bring power back to the people, back to the towns, back to the villages, and back to where it belongs. So.
Thanks, Peter.
Great. I'm not going to keep you for much longer because we said we wouldn't be much longer than an hour. I'll skip one of the questions. I did have a question about farming and sustainability because I work in the area and it's close to my heart. But it's mostly townspeople who are here. And if the rural people aren't going to come and attend our meetings, well, then they'll have to find their own way of getting...
a great answer off for that.
Oh, shit. Well, we can maybe ask you. There's two quick short questions. This is really a yes or no, but you could give me one answer. A lot of people did ask me to ask this question, and it's about supporting recently arrived immigrants in their ability to vote or to run, indeed, in politics. And in a lot of other countries, this isn't possible. And people were very interested to know if the candidates would support recently arrived immigrants being able to vote and run in local elections. Arguably, this could be a good thing for you because it's more people who could vote for you. But if you do support this policy, do you think there are controls that could be implemented to ensure that such candidates truly have the best interests of Ireland at heart? Because that's the concern, that they may not, So, who'd like to answer that question first?
Very quickly.
The ability for newly arrived refugees and asylum seekers to run for local election and vote in local election is absolutely criminal, and it needs to be abolished immediately. And any candidate, and I'll say this on record, and any candidate vying for the votes of asylum seekers or refugees needs to have himself looked at very, very, very closely.
Peter, you wanted to say something? No, I thought you were reaching for it.
Yeah, I lived in Canada for nearly 10 years. And I suppose when I went to Canada first, I was... there's a process, so you're a newly arrived immigrant, and then you become a permanent resident, and then after a while, a number of years, if you want, you can become a citizen. And I wasn't allowed to vote in the local elections until I became a permanent resident, and I had no problem with that whatsoever. That made perfectly logical sense to me. And I wouldn't have been allowed to vote in the national elections until I was a citizen, and that made perfect logical sense to me. So I think the fact that someone can just get off a plane, and you'll hear this at the door all the time, and people say, I'm not a racist, but it happens all the time. So I'm not a racist, but for someone to get off a plane and
What did you voting on racism?
what's that?
What did you voting?
I wouldn't agree, no.
What?
What they did to me was racism. No.
Voting on it.
No, I was a new immigrant to their country, and I wouldn't expect to have the same say in their country as people who've been in their country for 20, 30 years. I wouldn't have expected that. I'm Irish, yeah. Yeah. So people stepping off a plane or coming off a boat and having the same say in the running of this country as people who have been here their whole life, it's just not acceptable in my opinion. If those people stayed here for a year, whatever, 2 years, became permanent residents, I would gladly say it'd be fantastic to see them be able to vote in our local elections. But coming off a plane and voting, no, I'm not in agreement at all.
Great, Peter, thanks. Is there anything you would like to add? Do you agree?
No, I suppose, look, certainly while their applications are being processed, you know, I don't know, is it sensible to do it, but once someone has their application for asylum process, which in this country takes 12 or 18 months, and as I said earlier, we need a more efficient process, but once they have been granted genuine asylum status, you know, I suppose at that stage they have every right to play a role in society, is what I would say. But I would say at the moment it is too lax, you know, certainly getting off a plane, and while the application is in progress, you know, and have the ability to vote or to run is a bit premature on that, throughout all that. But once the process takes place in terms of them being granted genuine asylum or thereafter citizenship status, you know, then we're in a different ball game there, I think, you know, and they would have the same right as everyone else. Yeah.
Thanks, Frank.
I do fully agree with Willie on that, but my biggest concern is that the people that have come in, we'll just say we're standing here in Abbeville, right? If they get a vote, it's very often to fraud. And my fear is that some of the main political parties, if these people are allowed to vote, and in some cases it might be a postal vote or something like that, it is very open to fraud, and that is my concern, is that we might have 300 or 400 votes here in Fermoy that can be directed towards any candidate, and it is very worrying for that fact. Thank you.
Thanks, Frank. Okay, the last thing, then we let you all go. And it's probably, it's such an important thing. It's about having your own home and homes and our houses. And, you know, even if you don't own your own home, having long-term guaranteed tenancy over your own home is one of the key foundations of any community. Because if you have a place you can call home, you care about the schools, you care about the park, you care about the transport, you put down roots, and you have a valid vested interest in the people around you and in the town around you. So it's really, you know, fundamental right is to have a roof over your head that you can call home. I was very interested in what's happening in San Francisco, and it's been, you know, Mount Street in Dublin is a bit like it at the moment, but in San Francisco the homelessness is blamed on drugs and alcohol, and a lot of people have looked into that and they're saying it's not true. It's the lack of housing, unaffordability and unavailability of housing that has pushed all these people onto the streets. And we are facing the same thing here with 14,000 homeless in this country and rising. And if our 30,000 a year extra come in, it's going to be no homes, and no homes means no sense of community, and it does mean rising addiction problems and all kinds of other problems that come with any lack of social cohesion. So we are facing the same crisis here. The crucial question, and the thing that a local councillor really does have control over, is social housing. And we all want to know, you know, how would you ensure transparency and fairness? Because we really feel there is none. We feel, you know, people on the housing list long term are at huge risk of being overstepped to give the housing to the most recent flavour of the month, let's just say. So we want to know how you would ensure transparency and fairness regarding the allocation of social housing in the Fermoy municipal area. How can you be transparent to the community about how it's allocated and to who?
Well, I'm very happy to answer that because I've taken the same policy since day one. Take Fermoy out of the equation for a second. We'll go on about some of the smaller villages like that are in the district, like Glenville, Conor, Cormac, Castlines, where the availability of new social housing stock is few and far between. It really only comes out when there's a new estate, we'll say, with when an estate is built, there might be 4 or 5 of those houses purchased by the local authority, right? Okay. So there might be 4 or 5 houses in each new estate. So there's been a few in Castlines and Rathcormac and Conor lately where 4 or 5 houses in those estates will be purchased by the local authority. The way I've operated and will continue to operate is I will make representations first and foremost for one, those who've been on the list the longest. That is, and I'm dealing with people 10, 12, 15 years. 2, people who are homeless and are in need of accommodation. 3, people who have a medical need, and sometimes that house might need to be adapted. But the way I've always operated is, take where I'm from in Rathcormac, for example, where you might get a social house or 2 in the year that become available to be filled. I want them filled by people who are on the list out there, who are 10 and 12 years waiting for those houses, who have lived there all their lives, who worked there all their lives and want to remain there. That is how I approach, that is my approach to people with regards to who I make representations for social housing. Because in the smaller areas, some of your bigger towns are different, but certainly in your smaller areas, in your smaller villages, they're few and far between, and those that are from there, that are on the social housing list, should be accommodated there. That is the way I will continue to operate, and I make no apologies for that either. Yeah.
I have to fully agree with Willie there as well, and I actually think myself that we'll just say for Castlelroach, if there's somebody in Castlelroach, or if there's 5 or 10 people in Castlelroach looking for houses, that they are the first people should be considered for the houses in Castlelroach. I'd say the same if there was 5 people in Ballyhooly, they should be the first considered. I'm coming across it every day of the week that when the houses are being given out, I'm being attacked, I'm being rang, I'm giving out that there's this person or that person. No, not alone is it affecting bringing in people from other countries, but I see even in my own locality where they're bringing people from the other side of the county into, with Castlelroach for instance. These people don't feel, I'm not saying they don't feel safe there, but their communities are where they came from. And in cases where you're bringing single women or with families to a village that they don't know anybody, it's not fair either on them. And I'm not talking about foreign people, I'm talking about our own Cork people. So I think the County Council should be adopting a policy of if there was somebody from Castlelroach, that they can get a house in Castlelroach. If there's somebody from Cana or Castlines or where, they get their house there. And fair enough, if your family connection in the area, that you should be the next considered for that house. Not bringing in people from all over the country or all over the world. Give it to the local people. Thank you.
Tell me something, no, there's 64
Sorry,
houses.
I'm sorry.
There's 64 houses built in Mahon. I'd be up there a lot. And there was plants, developed plants that they paid a lot of money for. Why don't they give them to the Irish company?
This is what we're saying, yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm saying. And when I say the Irish, I'd be giving to the people above round Mahon, not even to people from North Cork. Because keep the people in your own areas. In my own village of Castlelroach, there's about 30 houses, I think there's 30 houses in Hunters Park. If you look at those families, every one of those, their roots are from Castlelroach. When I was going to school, I remember they built Shinnick's Place in Castlelroach, somewhere around 20 houses. Every single person in that house came from the parish of Castlelroach. I'm quite sure it's the same. Look, I'm elected in the Fermoy Mitchell area. I'm quite sure it's the same in all the areas. But in today's world and in today's council allotment of houses, they're not necessarily giving it out to the people of the locals. That's what I want, is to give it. And in your case in Mahon, I'm not asking you to house people from Castlelroach or from Iron over it. House the people from that area in Mahon, or the people that are working in the area. That's what I'd be asking for.
These people walk, it's fine. Why would they walk? You see, you get up early in the morning and they're getting everything.
I know, we know. This is what this is all about. Thank you.
We understand that.
Yeah, we do. Thank you, but I'm sorry. We just have to keep moving on. This is what this is about. This is exactly the issue.
Thanks. Look, on the front of my leaflet here, I got flyers for anyone who wants them. Top priority for me is local housing for local people. Okay, we need to keep local people in their communities with their friends and families that they grew up with. Okay, there's a trend starting around this country right, where people from communities are having to move out and send their kids to, you know, schools and parishes far away. That's not acceptable to me. The housing issue in this country is major. We do need to build more houses. There's problems with planning, there's problems with restrictions. We do need more houses, but until we get a cap on the numbers of people who are coming into the country, we're never going to solve it, because it's not a supply issue, it's a demand issue. There's new housing estates popping up all over this country, council houses, and they're majority foreign national. That will never be acceptable to me. So Ireland First has actually written a motion, and on our first day in local council or at EU level, each candidate will submit this motion, and the motion goes something like this. I don't have the wording, but we are calling for support for an audit of every foreign national in social or state-funded housing, and anybody who broke the law coming into this country, i.e. without a passport, needs to be removed from that house, and that house be used for local Irish people. That's why we're called Ireland First.
How many minutes do we have to talk about housing? We could talk for hours on it. Yeah, so knocking on the door over the last few weeks, and housing is a massive issue in this country. And I've heard some very sad situations. I've talked to a woman only yesterday, 14 years on the housing list. And I talked to a man here just last night in Fermoy, and he's been evicted from his home. And he only has a few months, and he's very, very stressed, under huge stress, and he's nowhere to live, he's nowhere to go. And I asked him, why are you being evicted from your home? And he gave me a name of a company. I like to call them a vulture fund. A vulture fund has taken ownership of the property that he's living in, and they're evicting him out of the home because they need to do renovations. And this country was sold out many years ago by the traditional parties to the international investors and bankers all across this world, who are using our housing crisis for their own financial gain and making massive profits over in Wall Street. And that is the fundamental problem in this country. Our own government sold out the people of this country to vulture funds. And as a result, we have the housing crisis we're seeing at the moment. And look, housing, we need to build more houses, far more houses. That's one solution. As well, walking around council houses, there's hundreds of council houses vacant all around this area. I pass dozens of them every single day. You walk to the house, oh, there's nobody in that house, is empty. You walk to another house, nobody in that house is empty. Why is there council houses empty in the middle of a housing crisis? Yeah, why is this happening? A housing crisis, and the council are taking months, if not years, to turn over a house. The council needs to get his ass into gear now and getting those houses in a few weeks, because there's people on the street. There's over 13,000 of our own people on the street, and it's an absolute travesty that this is happening. There was a man a few months ago, I helped him. He went to the Galtee Mountains to die. 8.5 weeks he went without food because he was 10 years homeless, and he couldn't get a house and he couldn't get a home. And why is this man, who is a citizen of Ireland, why was he homeless on the street and people coming straight off a plane getting a house? It's not right. It's not right what's happening, what's going on. So yeah, the housing issue, I would agree. We need to allocate local houses for local people. People who've been on the housing list for years and years and years, they have to become top priority, yeah? Derek, the political party system is broken, yeah. There's other policies there as well, you know, you might not agree with it, so. But anyway, that's my thoughts on housing.
Thank you, Peter, thank you. Thanks everyone for great answers. And I'm sorry, I would say, like in everything in life, we agree on more than we disagree, I believe. Those of us who were here, and from what I've heard today anyway. So thank you very much. I'm going to give you each 1 second if you want, just to say if you forgot to say something, or final words. This video is going to go viral all over the world. So are you anywhere?
You know, I'm camera shy for...
Oh, you can know. I trust you. You're not...
Sorry, folks. This is to our 2 elected councillors that we have here at present. I'm going to ask the question about the housing estate in Tranard has been closed down for 4.5 years. There's 48 houses there. Some are ready to be moved into due to, but they can't move in due to the lack of a new pumping station. The rest of them are at all stages of being built. Peter was part of that construction, and so was I. It closed down in November 2019, and here we are in April 2024, 4.5 years later. And you guys tell us what's happening with us?
I'll do my best, Noel. Thank you. Yeah, it is one of the biggest scandals for me, and without getting too deep into it, I suppose, it was a private development that when finished, when it was private land and private houses, but when finished, the council were going to purchase every one of them houses, you know. I know you were on site, Noel. I know you know the ins and outs of it as to what happened, you know. I don't want to get into it, I better be careful, but for whatever reason, the developer wasn't in a position to finish it. The builder was, who was a great local man, you know, and that's important to say, but it was left in limbo. The council didn't want to step into a private development that they had nothing to do with until the product was finished, until the houses were finished. So that has gone around in a big, long, bureaucratic, as usual in this country, legal wrangle, you know. But I actually spoke to a fella, Keith, a woman, she's in the council, and look, to be some bit positive, they hope to be back on site in midsummer, kind of June, July. But look, I've no fault to the builder up there, who's a fantastic builder who has built house after house in this town, but it was above his level as well. But look, I would hope that would get back going in the next couple of months, to the best of my knowledge. Okay, but it's an eyesore, and it's if you want to take a picture of the inactivity of a lot of things, drive past that, you know. It's an embarrassment, I know that, you know, but no, it's something we're pushing hard with, you know, because there's 48 houses going in there that, you know, that will be purchased by Cork Council when finished, and hopefully filled with people from this town, you know, from this town, who are on the housing list with 10, 12, 15 years. And I think, would you believe, if that development was finished, right, okay, and the one above in College Road, it would make a serious dent to the housing list in this town. So it is urgent, and it needs to be done.
I couldn't say any more than what William has said there. He's 100% right, and in fairness to Cork County Council, we cannot blame County Council and Cork County Council on this one. It's a private matter, and what Willie has said, I can't kind of further on it. Thank you.
Is there anything else you would like to say before we finish? Pardon?
Did you want to talk something about farming for a second? Okay, Willie's done. Big clap for Willie. Did you want to raise the issue about the farming? You are very much in touch with the rural folk, Frank, and I was going to ask, but I just don't want to keep people too much longer, about the issues facing farmers and people living in rural areas and what you could do about that.
Coming from a farming background and from a farming area, right, farming is probably closest to my heart. Now, since I got elected, naturally enough, for my town is one of my main towns, for my image town, and naturally enough, we have to represent everybody. Now, in the rural areas, there's an awful lot of farmers feel very vulnerable. The whole legal system and the whole rural area, it is very, very tough on a lot of these people. And the red tape and our laws and our regulations are actually making all these people's lives nearly impossible. In County Cork alone, we have an average 40 farm suicides a year. It is absolutely frightening. In 2022, we had 6 people killed on road accidents, which is 6 too many. We're not denying that. The same year, we had 9 people killed in the whole of the country in farm accidents. So for every one person that was killed on the road, we had 7 violent farm deaths on farms. For every person that was killed in a farm accident in the 26 counties, we had 5 farm tragedies in County Cork. We can see last week the government, or the Commissioner, said that every Gardaí must spend half an hour of their day on controlling road duties and traffic duties. We can see the money that's been put into farm safety and the fines that our farmers are facing if they're not being compliant. But there is nothing going through, or nobody trying to help the farm suicides. It is absolutely frightening. And I think myself, if the Gardaí, if the authorities, and if the people that are actually causing the stress to these people, they should all be educated, they should be trained on it, because it is absolutely scandalous. I suppose I get an awful lot of it because I come out and I talk publicly about this. And I've farmers as late as this morning from County Kilkenny ringing me, because he had no other council in the country to ring. I do understand in the towns there are people committing suicide, and I do understand there are people in other professions committing suicide, but just simply because I was highlighted in the farming area is why so many have come to me. Now, Laura here is an employee of Tegas. Tegas are another area that are pushing an awful lot of these farming people into it. It is absolutely frightening, and I do think it's an area that we have to put more resources into, because we've too much red tape, we've too much control, and it's actually driving people around the bend. Thank you.
It's a tragedy. Would you like to finish up on anything else, or are you done? Like one last vote for me, whatever.
Well, but I did forget to say, our helpline, we see even Tegas last week started a helpline. When we talk about headline, people say more funding. We don't need more funding, we need more commitment. The new headline that was actually set up in the last number of weeks, it's available from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. If somebody at 11:30 at night is feeling down and standing with a rope in their hand, they're not going to wait till 9 o'clock in the morning. We need commitment. We don't need a lot of people to man these lines. You'd man the whole country with 4 or 5 people. It's not a lot of people. They can't transfer calls. We need commitment. I suppose my closing line is, I have served this community as an independent, I think myself, very well for the last 5 years. I have got on very well with my other colleagues. We have done an awful lot. I hear people critically at the council. I can honestly say the work that has been done in the Fermoy Mitchelstown area for the last 5 years have been absolutely fantastic. The road from Mallow to Mitchelstown, which I promoted, and which this time 5 years ago I was telling the people that if I got elected I'd get that road done. And I do think anybody can say that I delivered. I'm telling the people here tonight, the road from Fermoy to Mallow, when I get elected in the 7th of June, from Rinny in Caston Roche to the Grotto, from Farrell Brothers or McDonald Brothers to the Top Shop, and from Nano Nagels to Carrick, I'll guarantee the people, and you can press me here in 2029, I will have that road upgraded, and I will have a road as good as the motorway from Mallow to Fermoy. I have another small little announcement. Peter said earlier about a hotel in Fermoy. I have secured a site in Fermoy for a hotel. I have also secured a very, very good investor. But however, there is a problem. I have absolutely no doubt that my investor will come through because he's for my connections. But the problem I have is to try and get convinced Cork County Council to give me the hotel on the site that I feel is very suitable. And that will be the problem. But I have the site, I have the developer, and I hope to God in 2029 that I'll be standing here and that Laura will be by my side, and that she won't agree here that that's it. I will happen, because I've got a lot of them in the last 5 years. But I will have a hotel very, very near here if I can get the support of Cork County Council, not the people from my Cork County Council. That's what I need to get over the line. And I will deliver. And there's one thing for sure, I will have a road from Mallow to Fermoy. Thank you.
Frank, would you like to say a round up, Peter?
I suppose I'd just like to thank you, Laura, for organising this here today. I think it's been a fantastic exercise, and I think everyone should give Laura a round of applause. I said at the very start, our ancestors fought over 100 years ago that we'd be a democratic republic, and they gave us our constitution eventually. And within our constitution, we have a right to peaceful assembly and a right to freedom of expression. And we should always have that right. We should always be free to express our opinion, even if we don't agree. And I suppose there's many people I disagree with, but I'd always fight that they'd have the freedom to express their opinion. And that's very, very important for any democracy in any country around the world. So, yeah, just fantastic exercise. It's if it would take off across the country, it'd be brilliant. It'd be absolutely fantastic. I don't have much more really to say, other than that, vote for Peter O'Donoghue, number 1 on June the 7th. Thanks, everyone.
I just want to say before I go to you, Derek, that for the general election, they're getting away with blue murder so far. TDs, we haven't seen one. I haven't ever met one. With all that we went through in the town here for 6 months, not one TD came and visited us. So we're coming for you when the general elections come on. We'll be holding you, Massey, but no, none of our local is what I mean. Mash McGrath did, none of our local. So we'll be demanding the same accountability from all those running for general election too when that comes about. And let's keep this trend going, I would say. Now, Derek.
Thanks, Laura. Yeah, I just thought I'd touch on what Frank said there about the hotel. You know, it's great news that he's found a site, he's found a developer. You know, the thing I would have about it is that we have a hotel. We also have a guest house. So if we build another hotel, what's to say 2 years down the road, we won't be inside in a tent outside it, you know, preventing you know, that's my problem. What I would say is, try to get back our hotel, right, and our B&B, you know, because we have the space. June 7th, we've local, we've European elections. Lads, for the last few decades, we voted in Gambins, okay, who are afraid to take their eyes off their shoes, who have no guts to stand up for their communities. We are in a hell of a battle at the moment, and most people can see it. We need to start electing people with courage, with a voice, who isn't afraid to use it. Okay? With a lot of people, councillors, hopefuls who didn't show up here tonight. That should tell you enough about them. Fair play to the other 3 lads, right, who showed up here tonight, but I think, yeah. Fair play to the 3 lads who showed up here tonight, but let's be fair, there's only one man here with the courage and with the voice to actually stand up and say the things that need to be said. Vote Derek Blighe for local and for European elections. And just in case you're wondering what happens to the other seat, if I win both seats, I've got somebody with the same mindset and the same courage as myself to co-opt into that seat, so you'll get Derek Blighe in both seats. So thank you very much.
Great, thanks Derek, thanks Peter, thanks Frank, and thanks Willie. Again, thank Willie. As I said, they could have all been at matches or in the park sunbathing, and they chose to be here. And all of you chose to be here. So give yourselves a big round of applause. And I'm just saying, I would reiterate whatever is said, get up and get out and vote on 7th of June. Vote like your life depends on it. And I think the future of our children does depend on it. So get up and vote. Vote independent and nationalist, I would say. And kick out the others. Okay, bye. Thank you, everyone.